Every great war has its soldiers, men who charge into cannon fire, who bleed on open fields. But some wars are won in shadows, won in whispers, won by ordinary people doing extraordinarily dangerous things. The phrase, the spy ring that won the American Revolution, refers to the Culper Spy Ring, a highly successful clandestine intelligence network organized in 1778. Organized by Major Benjamin Tallmadge and General George Washington, operating primarily out of British-occupied New York City and Long Island. This group of ordinary citizens provided critical, highly accurate intelligence that shifted the balance of the entire war. While popularized by historians and books such as Brian Kilmeade's bestseller George Washington's Secret Six, most modern historians view the phrase as a slight hyperbole. They were arguably the most effective intelligence operation of the entire conflict. This is their complete story. But to understand why this spy ring became necessary, you first need to understand how desperate the American situation truly was. When we think of the American Revolution, we often think of Valley Forge and Saratoga, of muskets and Minutemen, of the Boston Tea Party and Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. But there was another war, one kept under wraps and waged in the shadows. A war no less dangerous than the kind fought on horseback as cannonballs whistled overhead. By November 1776, mere months after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the Continental Army had endured heavy losses and a punishing string of setbacks. During the Battle of Long Island, roughly 1,300 Americans were killed, wounded, or captured. At Fort Washington, General Washington was forced to surrender roughly 3,000 men. In 5 major battles between August and November of 1776, the Continental Army was reduced to fewer than 5,000 men. Inside a candlelit tent along the New York harbor, General Washington confronted a grim reality. Surrounded, outnumbered, and outmaneuvered, he asked his officers for options. Silence followed. In the months that followed, the mightiest military power in the world drove the beleaguered American forces from the New York region, pushing them through New Jersey and nearly to the brink of collapse. Washington's crossing at Trenton and Princeton in the winter of 1776 were astonishing victories, but these achievements alone could not reverse the tide of the war. The British Army had captured New York City, a critical stronghold for trade and transportation, and turned Manhattan into a fortress. As John Adams himself declared, New York was the pivot on which the entire Revolutionary War turned. Without the city and without intelligence from inside its gates, Washington knew the American cause would not survive. He needed eyes. He needed ears. He needed spies. From this necessity was born one of the most audacious and consequential acts of espionage in our nation's history, the Culper Spy Ring. Before the Culper Ring existed, Washington tried a simpler, far more dangerous approach, dispatching lone scouts behind enemy lines. Captain Nathan Hale was captured by the British Army and executed as a spy on September 22, 1776, caught, tried, and sentenced to death within just 12 hours. He remains part of popular lore for his purported last words. "I only regret that I have but one life to give for my country." Hale's death was a brutal lesson. Sending uniformed officers behind enemy lines alone was not a strategy, it was a death sentence. Washington needed a fundamentally different approach, and he found it in a 24-year-old dragoon officer from Connecticut named Benjamin Tallmadge. In November 1778, General George Washington appointed Major Benjamin Tallmadge as Director of Military Intelligence, charging him with creating a functional spy ring inside New York City. Tallmadge's recruits were not professionally trained intelligence officers. They were farmers, merchants, tavern keepers, and laborers, old friends he had made while growing up on Long Island. Abraham Woodhull, a farmer and son of a local patriot judge from Setauket, Long Island, joined the Culper Ring in November 1778. Operating under the pseudonym Samuel Culper Sr., Woodhull was essentially the leader of daily field operations, deciding what information was transmitted throughout the group. Woodhull would travel back and forth to New York City, taking careful note of British troop movements, the size of their forces, and their specific activities. Because the British had also occupied his farm, whenever it became too dangerous for Woodhull to travel personally, he enlisted the help of trusted allies. Austin Rowe, a tavern keeper from Setauket, served as the ring's primary courier. Rowe rode more than 55 miles between New York City and Setauket to deliver messages, transporting materials hidden inside ordinary goods and saddlebags. Rowe's position as courier was extraordinarily dangerous, traveling a long distance with incriminating evidence that could have hanged him at any checkpoint. To avoid suspicion, Woodhull allowed Rowe to bring his cows to pasture on his property. Messages were hidden in the hollow of a tree for later retrieval. Robert Townsend, a tavern owner and merchant in New York City, carried the code name Samuel Culper, Jr. Townsend was a patriot who publicly presented himself as a loyalist supporter of Britain, even writing for a loyalist newspaper to build credibility among the British. British military officers trusted Townsend completely. They drank at his establishment, openly discussed military plans, and revealed sensitive information. As a society journalist, Townsend moved through the highest social circles of British-occupied New York, extracting secrets that no uniformed soldier could reach. Caleb Brewster, a former whaler and lieutenant in Washington's Continental Army, was the Ring's most daring operative. Brewster operated whaleboats across the Long Island Sound to ferry secret dispatches, navigating treacherous British patrolled waters at night, in all conditions. Along the way, he would frequently attack British ships, steal their supplies, and burn what remained. Brewster was first commissioned in the 4th New York Regiment on November 1, 1776, and was later promoted to captain lieutenant on June 23, 1780. He was wounded on Long Island Sound in December 1782, still serving almost to the war's final day. Anna Strong, a housewife from Strong's Neck, Setauket, known within the Ring as Nancy, was well connected within New York's colonial upper class. Anna Strong arranged clothes on her clothesline as a means to signal fellow Culper spy Caleb Brewster regarding the location of hidden documents to be transported. A black petticoat signaled that Brewster was in the area. The number of handkerchiefs indicated the precise cove where Brewster could safely land under cover of darkness. Woodhull, watching through a spyglass from across Little Bay, could read the signals and coordinate the transfer without a single spoken word. And then there was Agent 355. In the Culper Ring's coded language, 355 meant simply lady. Her true identity has never been confirmed. She moved in the highest social circles of British-occupied New York, extracting secrets no man could easily access. According to historical accounts, it was Agent 355 who relayed information that helped expose Benedict Arnold's treason. Her story ends in documented tragedy, believed to have been imprisoned on a British prison ship where thousands died. Whether she survived remains unknown. History never recorded her name. One additional figure deserves recognition: James Rivington, the seemingly ardent loyalist owner of New York's most prominent coffee house and editor of the Royal Gazette, the personal printer to the king. Sometime in late 1778, this outwardly loyal English-born printer began secretly feeding sensitive communications to the Culper Ring, slipping coded messages inside book bindings and passing them to Robert Townsend. In the Culper Codebook, Rivington carried the number 726. Only after the war did it become public knowledge that this apparent traitor to America had in fact been one of its most effective covert defenders. Major Tallmadge crafted a numerical substitution system. In total, 763 numerical identities were created. Washington was 711. New York was 727. England was 745. USA period documentary reenactment of intelligence innovation. The creation of America's first codebook. Intellectual intensity, candlelight, and concentration. The Ring also used sympathetic stain, invisible ink developed by Dr. James J., brother of founding Father John J. Only Washington's designated agent, using the specific developer chemical, could reveal the hidden words. Messages were written in invisible ink between the lines of ordinary letters, hidden within ordinary goods, transported through the courier chain, readable only by those with the proper chemical reagent. The full information chain. Austin Rowe rode from Setauket into Manhattan. At Townsend's shop, he placed an encoded order. He concealed dispatches within merchandise and returned to Setauket. Anna Strong hung her black petticoat. Brewster spotted the signal. The number of handkerchiefs indicated the precise cove. Brewster ferried the intelligence across the Sound to Tallmadge, who delivered it to Washington. The entire process spanned approximately 2 weeks from beginning to end, and it worked flawlessly for 5 consecutive years. British intelligence never cracked the code, never identified a single member, never intercepted a critical message. For 5 years, the Culper Ring operated invisibly inside their occupied city. The Culper Ring operated for 5 years without a single member being unmasked or captured by the British. Their operational security was flawless. Their most prominent contributions reshaped the course of the revolution in ways that military force alone never could have accomplished. First, saving the French fleet, 1780. General Henry Clinton and Admiral Graves assembled a force of 9 warships and nearly 10,000 troops with plans to strike General Rochambeau's newly arrived French soldiers in a surprise assault in Rhode Island. The Culper Ring uncovered the plan. Major Tallmadge relayed the intelligence through trusted channels directly to French officers in Newport. Simultaneously, the warning reached Lafayette, Hamilton, and Washington, who devised a successful scheme to divert British forces back toward New York City. Washington immediately ordered his army into an offensive position, forcing Clinton to cancel the attack entirely. The French alliance, critical to American victory, was preserved. What could have been a crushing British blow was thwarted through daring espionage. The French forces were saved. The alliance held. The war continued. Second, exposing Benedict Arnold's treason. General Benedict Arnold, one of Washington's most celebrated commanders, had been secretly selling American military secrets to the British. His target was the strategic surrender of West Point, the fortress controlling the entire Hudson River. Had Arnold's mission succeeded, West Point would have fallen, the colonies divided, the revolution potentially smothered. According to historical accounts, it was Agent 355 who relayed critical information that ultimately helped expose the treasonous actions of Benedict Arnold. Major John Andre, carrying the West Point plans hidden in his boot, was captured by American militiamen, not by Washington's intelligence network, but by pure chance. The papers were found. Arnold's plot to surrender West Point was exposed. Andre was tried and hanged as a spy in October 1780. Arnold fled to a British warship on the Hudson. The fortress held. The revolution survived. And somewhere in the shadows of New York City, the Culper Ring continued its work. Third, thwarting economic warfare. Through painstaking observation, the Culper spies uncovered a devastating British scheme of economic sabotage. Thousands of forged Continental dollars were being printed in New York and smuggled across enemy lines. The British were deliberately devaluing American currency, aiming to wreck the fragile economy of the nascent republic. Washington responded swiftly, shutting down counterfeit circulation routes and launching efforts to stabilize the currency. Without this intervention, the revolution may well have buckled under economic ruin. Additionally, in 1778, the Culper Ring obtained the British Naval Codebook and delivered it to French Admiral d'Estaing, enabling the French to anticipate British naval movements and secure critical victories at sea. Washington marched his combined American and French forces 450 miles south to Virginia. The French fleet sealed the Chesapeake Bay. Cornwallis was surrounded. British General Lord Cornwallis, commanding a force of 8,000 soldiers at Yorktown, Virginia, believed himself perfectly secure. He never saw it coming. On October 19, 1781, Cornwallis surrendered his entire army of 8,000 soldiers to General Washington. It was the decisive battle of the American Revolution. As the defeated British troops marched out, their band played "The World Turned Upside Down." The greatest military empire on earth had been defeated by farmers, merchants, and spies. In London, Prime Minister Lord North reportedly collapsed upon receiving the news, crying, "Oh God, it is all over." He resigned. Peace negotiations began. Within 2 years, Britain officially recognized the United States of America as an independent nation. The war was won. British intelligence officer Major George Beckwith later assessed the outcome plainly. Washington did not really outfight the British. He simply outspied us. It may be more accurate to say Washington outfought the British because he outspied them. Washington himself wrote, There is nothing more necessary than good intelligence to frustrate a designing enemy. He understood that information is power, that the right secret delivered at the right moment can redirect the entire course of history. After the war, they told no one. No memoirs. No victory speeches. No public claim of glory. Abraham Woodhull returned to his Setauket farm and later became a judge. Robert Townsend became a recluse in Oyster Bay, so secretive that his identity as Samuel Culper Jr. was not confirmed until 1930, nearly 150 years after the Revolution. When historian Morton Pennypacker analyzed his handwriting against the spy letters, publishing his findings in the 1939 book, George Washington's Spies on Long Island and in New York, the mystery was finally solved. Caleb Brewster became a customs inspector, placed on the pension list of the United States by a special act of Congress on August 11, 1790. Benjamin Tallmadge served in Congress. And Agent 355 disappeared into history entirely. Her name never recovered, her sacrifice never publicly acknowledged. History never recorded her name. The CIA itself has acknowledged the Culper Ring as the ancestor of American intelligence doctrine. Every foundational principle of modern American intelligence traces its lineage to what Tallmadge built on Long Island in 1778. Dead drops, cover identities, coded communications, invisible ink, cutouts. Every tactic used by modern intelligence agencies traces its lineage directly back to what Benjamin Tallmadge built. Public interest soared when the AMC television series Turn. Washington's Spies aired for 4 seasons between 2014 and 2017, bringing their extraordinary story to millions of new viewers. For over 150 years, the story of the Culper Spy Ring, also known as the Setauket Spy Ring, remained a well-kept secret. Their sworn secrecy was what kept them alive and made their spycraft successful. A farmer, a businessman, a bar owner, a mariner, a housewife, and a handful of others, these were the men and women of the Culper Spy Ring, vital to the founding of the United States of America, yet few have ever heard of them. As Washington himself wrote, and the record confirms, there is nothing more necessary than good intelligence to frustrate a designing enemy. Victory in the American Revolution was achieved not only on the battlefield but in back rooms and back alleys, from cold letters and clever disguises. The heroes of the Culper Ring did not seek glory. They sought freedom. The Culper Ring operated from 1778 to 1783, 5 years. Not one member was ever captured. Not one true identity was unmasked. Not one critical secret was compromised. Their names were hidden for over a century. Their courage reminds us that the fate of a nation can hinge on the quiet work of brave men and brave women who may forever remain unseen, unheralded, and unnamed. Today, we remember and honor their quiet courage and their willingness to risk everything for a new nation. Their stories will not be forgotten.